Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the dungeon of the Doctors of Doom Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Alexander Sparks, and I'll be joined this evening by Mitchell Black and, of course, our dear friend, Vincent Santucci. We'll be discussing the world of sports entertainment, and I hope you all thoroughly enjoy this. Gentlemen, say good evening to the people out in the world.
Hello.
Good evening, my kind folk.
All right, enough
Are
of
we
that
talking about
garbage.
murder today?
What's crack-a-lackin', boys? What's on the agenda for tonight? What do you guys want to talk about? As people probably have figured out, no more football. That maybe some football news will be coming, here in a few weeks when we get closer to the NFL draft. But honestly, probably going to be a little bit of a drought when it comes to football news. We're going to talk about some other things, talk about sports, maybe entertainment, a few different things. But yeah, we'll start it off. Vinny, you said you had something to talk about, so Vinny, why don't you let it rip? What do you want to talk about, man?
Well, speaking of no more football, in case anybody's wondering where priorities are at, I got the text message about an hour ago saying, "Do you want to go to Costco?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I got the podcast with the boys." And they're like, "I thought football was over." And I said, "Football never dies. The pod lives on," was my text to my wife. So, here we are. We're doing it again. Um, but no. I wanted to start with the fact that I could not have been more egregiously wrong about the Four Nations Hockey League. So,
Oh yeah, that's been
one, I,
fantastic.
I think I think it's just, I think a good topic to talk about as far as how this relates is stark contrast between the NBA All-Star Weekend and if you want to call this an All-Star Weekend for the NHL. So, I thought, one, I wanted to eat crow. That's cool. I was wrong. I'm glad I was wrong because it's been exciting AF. And yeah, so I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think in order to do that, we have to give a little context to the NBA All Star Weekend. So for those who don't know, All Star games pretty much don't involve playing defense, and this goes for most sports. That's why the NFL just straight up got rid of the Pro Bowl, and now they play a garbage flag football game that no one watches. Basketball, they're scoring 200 points a pop, so they changed the format a little bit to where it's like old school guy versus new school guys. They have different old celebrities come in, like Shaq, and pick a team. They only played a 40, so it's like a set time period, things like that. Well, the big thing this year was a report came out that the commissioner told the players, "We want you guys to play hard. We want this to be legitimate. We want this to be serious." Then, right after doing that, they had Kevin Hart come in and do commentary that was broadcast throughout the game where he's just bashing the players the whole time. And a lot of players were not happy about it. Two of them straight up just didn't play. One was LeBron. He showed up an hour before the game and said he wasn't playing. And the other, I don't know when he announced that he wasn't going to play, but he just didn't play. So they did not play hard at all. And broadcast was very weird. They kept taking time out to recognize the broadcasters because it's TNT's last year, being the broadcaster for the NBA. So it was a really odd situation, and no one played hard at all because why would they? So yeah, that's some context for that game. That was weird. I'm not a big NBA guy, so like I'm obviously biased, but I don't know because like on one hand, like I've heard a lot of arguments like, oh well, the players didn't play because they were being mistreated by the network and what have you, and they were being given a double standard, and I get that, but at the same time, by not playing, you're punishing the fans much more so than you're punishing the NBA, and I thought that was pretty uncool. So for me, I think if you get voted into the All Star game, you either need to opt out right away because you're not going to go, or you need to go and give it your all because it's for the fans. That's my 2 cents on it. So I think it's a black mark on not just the NBA but on the players themselves. I think they did the league a disservice. I think outside of Steph Curry played. I'm not bashing all the players. Some of the players did play and play legitimately, but a lot of them dialed it in and no showed, and that was kind of garbage to me.
Did, did either of you two know who won the slam dunk competition last year?
I didn't know they still had it because all the good players stopped going to the slam dunk contest years ago.
My favorite thing from the weekend was Wimbayama and what was it, Chris Paul? Did you see them do the skills comp?
No, no, I just watched highlights of the actual game itself. I didn't the whole making it a weekend thing to me is just too much. But yeah, go
Listen,
ahead.
CP3 and Wembayama blatantly cheating within the rules, I
That's
might
my
add. Within the rules. So the fact that they got DQ'd after the fact, I don't know. I don't know.
They didn't break any rule, and I
Okay,
thought it was
guys. So
actually
guys, you're gonna have
bull.
to give me context because I'm on the show with you, but also give the listeners context because this is interesting. But obviously, we need to know.
So
Oh, yeah, I'll let
the
Mitch go
part of the
for it.
skills, have you seen a skills like they make you bounce it, then you run to the next section. You can do another type of bounce pass, run to another section, you take a shot. You know what I'm talking about, Alex? Have you seen that at all in general, or are you completely in the blank about it? Because like you do that, and then there's like three or four shots, three or four series of passes. And when you get to the shot, you have like you can't move on to the next section until you make the shot, correct? Well, you get like four or five balls, or I forget, it was like three or four balls to
Three
shoot.
attempts. Three attempts.
Yeah, three attempts. And so Chris Paul and Wimbayama just walked up to it, three attempts, and just threw the balls off the rack into the floor just so they could run to the next part. It's actually brilliant, but it defeats the whole purpose. And I just thought that was really funny. To answer though the question of like the stark contrast between the thing, it's got so bad that like they're legit probably gonna have like a Four Nations thing next All-Star break to try and copy the NHL. The only other thing I will say is I do kind of like the celebrity game because it's more about like the social media stuff and like I will admit I do like some of Kai's stuff. Samantha will love to rap me out that I'm secretly watching Kai Cenat's some of his stuff, but like so I don't even really care about the main game. Would you say video? Oh my gosh, I don't even really care about the main game because I know they're all now are trying. I know that they tried to spice it up by doing the quarters thing, but like no, the NHL completely just gave the template of try this.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I completely agree. The NBA is it's just such a bad All-Star week. I mean, the dunk contest is the most exciting thing, and even then, like they talked about how the NBA should force the best in-game dunkers to also be in the slam dunk contest. And it's baseball has all the best hitters in the home run derby somewhat routinely, right? So it would make a lot more sense.
yeah, but
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get the NBA being legit the worst of all the All-Stars.
well, I think it's pretty simple, right? If you're a great hitter and you enter the home run derby, it's really hard to embarrass yourself because like hitting home runs isn't easy anyway, and you're getting pitches fed to you on a platter. So like even if you don't do well, like it's not a huge deal. In a dunk contest, you really are center stage, and if you go and you just have a bad night and you go for some crazy dunks and you brick them off, like that's going to be a gif and that's going to be embarrassing and that can really hurt your brand and your image. And basketball is a lot more about branding than baseball. It's a lot more about like me. It's a me league. There's so many more deals. Like look at how much money these players make in overseas advertisements alone. You know what I mean? Like just like random Japanese commercials with a basketball player in them. Like that. There's a lot more for the players to lose if they go and make a fool of themselves in a dunk contest than there is in a home run derby. And I don't know how the NBA can get around that, right? Because like you said, we'll make them do it. Well, if you try to make them do it, they're just going to say they're injured, and then there's no legal way. Like there's way too many ways to like get in trouble trying to say, oh, you're not really injured. Like that's a big issue in any workplace, right? Your employer can't say you're not
Yeah.
really hurt. You know what I mean? So uh, I
Yeah.
don't know of a way to solve that problem. I think the real problem is making the game itself matters and the players want to play in that game. And I think it would be easier to do that if you made the game more of a showcase of the players instead of a showcase of other things. I think where they really went wrong this year was it was a showcase of the TNT broadcasters and the TNT team because they're on their way out the door. And I get why TNT might want to do that, but if I'm a player and I get voted into an All-Star game and I want to represent my team and my conference and myself, and I get there and the entire game is about some broadcasters who got their love years ago. Like those broadcasters are Reggie Miller and Charles Barkley and like guys who got plenty of love when they were all stars. So it's like, hey, it's my turn. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I think they feel about it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I see that. I thought the format was interesting too. Like, they had, a championship format and then like the loser of one of them plays like the Rising Stars team and I don't know, the whole thing was just weird. I also laughed. I mean, the winning roster is just like a whole bunch of like old superstars, like the Shaq's team. I laughed though because it's like if anybody watched the NBA All-Star Game draft, it was like they're going through and Shaq's like, I'm gonna follow um, suit on Kenny. My team really needs a big, and he drafts Anthony Davis, and then Anthony Davis gets hurt and doesn't play, and like the replacement they give him is Kyrie Irving, and so I'm just like, wait, he like he explicitly says, I need a big man on this roster, and then like the all-star replacement for his team is Kyrie Irving. So the winning roster had Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, Dame Lillard, James Harden, Jaylen Brown, Kyrie Irving. Like Kevin Durant is the only person. I mean, I guess Jason Tatum too is pretty tall, but like outside of that, it's just a whole bunch of like point guards and shooting guards and like KD and we're like, oh, obviously that team would never really win in real life, when you're going up against Trey Young,
Right, but when you're playing where no defense is
Jokic,
allowed.
Shea, Wembenyama. Yeah, no. I like, yeah, I'm complete. I just think the whole thing is just a sham, and it's sad.
But okay.
Back, no, yeah, just thinking, not just necessarily the future for the All-Star game for the NBA, but more even so the future, because like naming all those guys, they're definitely all going to be out of the league in 2, 3 years, if not guaranteed 4. So it's like, okay, so like Brady was definitely going to Super Bowls in 18, 19, all the way up to 20. And it's like, who's the heir apparent? Oh, it's definitely Mahomes, right? It was pretty already like well laid out for him and set up. Like, basically, I'm trying long-winded saying, who is Mahomes of the NBA? What I mean, who are they going to pass it off to in the next 2, 3 years?
You mean besides
That's
Luka
going to be.
Doncic, who they got rid of?
It could be. That's what I'm saying. It could. Doncic could very well be one of them. I was thinking the only ones that come to mind are like um, Edwards or maybe Jaw. But like I just beyond that, like I just don't see who the league is going to give the reins to as the next star because they're definitely going to promote someone.
Yeah, I mean, but they're. I mean, as far as I know, the NBA. I haven't checked ratings, but like as far as I know, the NBA has been growing and doing well. So I think they're fine. I think someone will step up and rise to the occasion. I think it's been on pretty organic growth with them. So I think they're fine. Like as
No,
far
they're
as
really fun.
but I mean but I do agree because like and this is just me again. I'm not an NBA guy, so I don't watch a ton of NBA. But I legit did not realize that Kevin Durant was on the Phoenix Suns until like 2 weeks ago. And it's like this is a guy who was considered to be one of, if not the best player in the league for years. Legit didn't know who he played for anymore, and like so like they're like that's kind of interesting that like so yeah that player's gone, but like on the flip side of that, I know who Wembenyama is, and he's a young blood. You know what I mean? So like I know who Trey Young is, and like these are young guys. So like I know the young guys, and I know where they're playing. So maybe like I said, it's organically kind of happening as these older guys kind of go to the wayside.
Yeah, it'll be someone to
I
come back and claim the league in the next couple of years. Wembanyama is actually a really good one, and so is Trey Young. Actually, those are two other ones. Like if I had to give a top four, that would probably be my four with Jaw and
You're not gonna put
Edwards.
Ant in there?
I said Edwards, Jaw,
Oh,
and
okay.
Wembanyama, and who's the other one he just said? Sorry, I'm blanking real quick.
He's Trey Young,
Trey
not
Young,
Doncic.
yeah. No, I like those four, and then I guess even Doncic rounds out of five, but I do like those four better than Doncic. I don't know if Doncic is as good as those four, but yeah, go ahead.
I think it's really funny that Alex just said he didn't even know KD was on the Suns. It's like the funny part about that to me is just that like KD almost went to the Heat and he almost went back to the Warriors at the trade deadline. So like there was a realm of possibility that Alex would have never known that KD was a
You
Sun ever if if he actually got traded.
Well, like
So it's
when I
silly.
saw it on TV, I was like, oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. But like that's how little impact it had because it's just like it's not the same anymore. Like oh man, Katie's on the Suns, yeah, but the best team in the NBA was the Cavs for the first half of the season. You know what I mean? It's like, but that had nothing to do with him. Like just none of the teams that were good, like all the big NBA news, like isn't around him. And like this is a guy that literally like I don't know what would you say? Maybe 2 years ago you could call him a top five player in the NBA.
Oh, he's definitely he's a top five player right
You
now.
still okay? You still think he's a top five player? Yeah. So like the fact that a top five player, I can't even tell you where he is playing. That's a bad thing. But on that, like I said, on the other side, like I've seen these stories about these other younger guys that are doing well, and so maybe I think the NBA was organically doing pretty well for themselves, and I don't think the All Star game is going to make a difference either way. To be honest with you, at the end of the day, it's just an All Star game. No one no one's ever really cared about it. No one ever really will. It's more so about the honor, especially the All Star game and the Pro Bowl are both things that are voted on. I think we talked about this before. Being an All Pro is much more impressive of a feat than being a Pro Bowler, right? So like being, other than being an All Star, like being voted on by your peers or your coaches or whatever, the media even, is so much more legitimate than just voted by the fans who are going to vote for their favorite players.
Also, another reason
Agreed.
why it might be under the radar is because they got destroyed in the first round by the Timberwolves, who are, upcoming, or they're actually not upcoming anymore. They're definitely here team, but they got I see a 4-1, 4-0 in the first round to the Timberwolves, and I actually thought, that Booker and Durant combination, the way Durant was playing in the end of last year, I actually thought that Suns team was going to go to the Western Finals, and they got swept in the first round by Minnesota. So little did I know. Yeah.
Um, so on the other side of it, obviously, one of the things I want to talk about as it relates to the NHL All-Star Weekend and the four nations was the fact that, well, one, we have the rematch for USA Canada.
Thursday.
I'm not sure exactly when that is. Is that tomorrow or Thursday?
It's Thursday, I'm pretty sure,
Uh,
but
but the first game in which three fights within 9 seconds after the fans in Canada booed during the U.S. national anthem. Like, what a wild sequence of events.
I mean, yeah, but okay. I mean, a few things here. One, I never want this show to become political, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys right now, if this gets too political a conversation, I'm going to stop it. Um, in case someone happens to listen to this in the future, the reason they're booing us, America's being kind of shitty when it comes to international trade right now, and our allies are not happy with us. So I still think it's shitty of fans to boo a national anthem. But that's why they did it. And one of the things I liked about this Tournament of Nations is, like I talked about in the last podcast, Vinny, you already ate crow about it, is people care about their flag, they care about their country. So the fact that these people scrapped and got in a fight right after, like, that's legit. You know what I mean? Like, that's, these are guys, and a lot of these guys are on the same team. Like the example I gave, about how I got into the Blackhawks a few years ago, or not, this is probably a long time ago now, in the Olympics, was because it was both Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane were like captains for Canada and the U.S. going against each other. They're on the same team in the NHL. So like a lot of these guys were fighting each other on the same team, but like that's why these games matter. Like these games are going to be interesting. These people care because you can't help but care about your flag. You may not care about I'm playing for the AFC or the NFC. You may not care about I'm playing for the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference, but you absolutely care about the flag on your jersey. Regardless of how you feel about politics, if you're an American, in general, you're going to rep your country and you're going to be, except for, I know Vinny's not. Vinny's all pro Italy in the World Cup, and you can get out of here with that nonsense, Vinny. But most of us, when it comes to the flag, we rock hard.
I just figured I have two options, so I'm going to root for the one that I think has the better chance to win. And ironically, they haven't been in the last two World Cups. So that's, I have been a U.S. fan the last couple of World Cups. No. And I don't intend on making this political at all. But I grew up in the South Park generation. So, we kind of have this like jokingly anti-Canada indoctrination.
Oh,
sort
and
of
for
speak,
anyone
of
who's
just
ever
like,
spent 5 minutes with me, they know I've made plenty of anti-Canada jokes. I
right.
can quote the movie Canadian Bacon about the longest unprotected border in the world. They flow among us down like maple syrup. Like I get all that, but yeah, go ahead. I'm just saying, like, it's one thing to joke, it's another thing to be all about it.
So yeah, I mean, I think I mean, in the most non-political way at all. I just think it's so funny that Canada, of all nations, had the audacity to boo the United States. Politics, tariffs, whatever it is or not, like to boo during the national anthem. So my question to you was going to be, do you think that there's a single sporting event or a single country, either now or historically speaking, that you would have the balls to stand up and boo during their national anthem? I actually thought about this a lot over the weekend, and I was like, I don't think I would ever boo like Russia, China. Like, do you boo like Japan and Germany post World War II? Like, even then, I'm not sure. I feel like that is just
I think
so disrespectful. It's like I just am like in awe of that they actually like did it and a whole stadium did it. So like I'm
yeah.
curious, is like, do you feel like there's a single flag or country during a sporting event that you would feel comfortable booing?
The
So
Russians actually got, sorry, real quick. The Russians
Go ahead.
actually did get vetoed because they were competing under RO, the Republic of something or independent or
yeah,
whatever. Their athletes had to come in under from the doping scandal and everything
Olympic
like
athletes of
that.
Russia. Yeah, the OAR.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
but
you,
did
Max.
fans boo them? Like the
Well,
organization
they
was
didn't
like,
get
you're
that.
They
cheating.
got
That
told to
doesn't really
walk
apply because they didn't
into,
get to have their own anthem. There was a special anthem just for the OAR, so
yeah,
Russian
they got
athletes
booed.
did not get to hear their own anthem. But to answer your question, Vinny, a couple things. One, I don't think sporting events and hardcore sports fans are representative of a nation. Like, people joke about how polite Canadians are. Like, obviously, it wasn't very polite to boo us during the national anthem. I don't think that's a representative of the country necessarily, just the sports fans. As far as would I ever boo, it's pretty disrespectful, but I could see myself booing against countries that are currently committing war crimes, like Russia, for example. If the U.S. played Russia in anything right now, I would boo Russia. Russia's currently committing war crimes in Ukraine. They should be booed. F those guys. And
Yeah.
and I understand that the Russian people aren't the ones doing it. It's their dictator Putin that's doing it. But how else do you protest it other than booing and making your thoughts known, right? So that's
I've,
as far as would I have the balls to do it. That's the one time I think I would have the balls to do that. Any other time, no. Like just because I don't like a country, I'm not gonna boo them. Like oh man, I if I went to France and got punched in the face by a Frenchman, I'm not gonna boo the French national anthem because I was mad at a French guy, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
um,
No, I just think the whole thing is kind of funny to me. Like it's just like, and then like as soon as they drop the puck, like both the Kachuk brothers start like bashing heads, and I'm just like, oh dang, this is instantly like they didn't even need to play the game. It was already more exciting than the entire NBA All-Star Game weekend, right? Like it was just like within 5 minutes there was a boo and fights, and you're like, this is peak sports. This is as
oh, that
good
was
as it gets
amazing.
for an
Yeah, that
All-Star
was,
weekend.
yeah, no doubt. But my two thoughts are, well, maybe it's an NHL culture thing, but when I went to Kings games or whatever, it'd be like, and or land of the free, and then people like, Sharks suck, and the home of the, just like in the middle of the anthem. So it's like, I don't know, maybe if it was necessarily more about that because I feel like hockey culture kind of yells out during the anthem. Also, too, like if you saw how we reacted to kneeling during the national anthem in the NFL, the Canadians probably should have seen or known that it's not. They obviously don't watch NFL football, right? Because they didn't see how America reacted to that for the last 6 years or whatever. So, yeah, I think it's all around kind of funny. I actually didn't. I mean, you did boo the national anthem. I know it's in part because of our politics right now. I did not expect the American players to respond that way, and when they did, I was like, "Oh, this is not the channel is not changing. It is staying right here."
well, like
So
like I
no,
said,
I
you
get.
can because you can. It's kind of like the All Star game of the NBA, right? Like they punish the fans by not playing, not just the NBA. Well, when those fans booed our national anthem, they weren't just booing the current administration that is doing this to them, that's being a bad
Yeah.
trade partner. They were booing all the people there in attendance that were there to cheer for their team, the players on the ice who were representing their team, and these are players. Some of those players probably had the feeling like, hey, I play for the Maple Leafs. I represent you on a nightly basis and play for the team you cheer for me all the time, and now you're booing me because of my flag. That would get under my skin, right? So like as an objective bystander, I understand why they did it. I don't think it's okay, and I also understand why the players on the ice took offense to it, even if the boos were not directed at them as much as they were a political statement. I still understand their stance, and I'd probably feel the same way had I been on the ice rocking an American jersey. Also, had I been on the ice rocking an American jersey, Team USA would have bigger problems because, I'm not a hockey player.
I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying, like, was there no like? It's like hockey players probably just thinking like, I'm not necessarily on the side of calling you a 51st state or whatever as well. Don't boo me. You know what I mean? Like, so I get what you're saying. No, for sure. It's just like I just didn't expect that. I mean, Kachuk's gonna forever live in my mind for making those actions and the other guy's name. But I just I can't believe it actually happened, I guess is more what I'm saying as opposed to, it actually did happen.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts exactly. It's just yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with Alex that like I think Russia for sure deserves to get booed. I don't know if I have the guts to do it. Like I'm just not that person. Like I will boo a Bama fan to high heaven, right? But that's just like the logo you chose. Sorry, bro. Like to boo like another country and like representatives of that country that maybe do or don't support like whatever is going on. I think that's just it's a really aggressive choice, and I
Yeah,
gained
well, so
respect for Canada in the fact that like they actually took that stance, like in a non-political way, just like, dude, you guys have a lot more balls than I thought you ever did. Like South Park was really underselling you. That's kind of like my stance.
well, and I will say, Vinny, like in like let's say I went to an event and athletes from Russia had to compete under the like Olympic athletes from Russia banner. It was like a different flag and a different anthem. I would not boo them in that scenario, right? Because that's the athlete kind of representing themselves and what they want to do, not the same as someone representing the country, right? So uh, I would not boo an athlete. I would not boo a person or an athlete at a sporting event because they are from Russia. I would boo the Russian anthem because they're currently committing atrocities, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
where the difference
that's
is for
correct.
me. Just for clarity, like I again, and I'm not a political activist by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't want this show to get political, but as far as like I just want to clarify that like I would not go out of my way to boo someone because they're from Russia. I totally understand that the people of a nation are different than what the government of a nation does. Right. Same here in the U.S. There are plenty of people who support what the administration is doing. There are also plenty of people who do not support what the administration is doing. That's one of the great things about our country is you can have a difference of opinion. So, I'm not going to say that like all Russians are evil because they're not. I'm sure there are plenty of great, upstanding people who happen to be Russian who are ashamed by what their leadership is doing. Right. But I would boo
Yeah,
their anthem at a sporting event to make it known that it's shitty what their country is doing. Whereas I would not boo an athlete just because they are Russian.
yeah,
So
yeah.
good thing the Four Nations wasn't hosted by the Flyers because I don't think you'd get away with booing in that stadium.
That's in Philly for those who don't
They
follow
booed their
hockey.
Super Bowl winning coach. Man, that's so funny. Speaking of booze, though, I wanted to start off by just giving a huge boo to the University of Alabama for even thinking they stood a chance
Dude,
last
yes.
weekend.
That was
And then we get
oh
a
man.
whoa, Eagle,
Or Eagle.
hey,
Hey. Yeah, man. That game. So for those that don't know, Auburn and Bama, they were 1-2 in basketball. Auburn number one, of course. And they played at Bama recently. Auburn got out to a 9-0 lead. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a typical Auburn game. We're gonna have a tight match the whole way. I know we started up 9-0, but something's gonna go horribly wrong. And it did. They kept coming back. They kept coming back, but we never lost the lead. They were able to tie it a couple times, but they never actually took the lead. We won in Bama. We're still number one. That was epic. Because man, it would have been soul crushing, honestly. To like
it would have been so
to,
crushing.
when we're like the number one team in the nation, to lose to Bama would just be the literal worst. Like I'm one of those people that if we only win one game next year, as long as it's the Bama game, I'm happy about it. So losing this one, like even if we went on to the win the Natty, I would have been pissed about losing this game. So I'm stoked that we got the dub. Long season left to play. Still have to play Bama again in Auburn, but I was stoked. That was a fun game to watch as an Auburn fan.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. The same thing. I will say, like, there towards the end, like when we had like a 10-point lead and like they fouled Janiah Broom twice and he went 0 for 4 from the free throw line. I'm like, can we just take Janiah Broom out of the game? Like, is he even benefiting us in the game right now? I actually fully anticipated on losing, like them losing this weekend just because it's a big game. I wasn't sure, if they'd be up for it. I thought Bama would come in facing the number one team, who's their rival. Like they just had a lot more to play for, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, dude, I don't know if I think the NBA has kind of like ruined my opinion of basketball. And I know Auburn's been good um, quite a bit recently, but obviously they haven't been this good. College basketball, and maybe I just haven't been paying enough attention. College basketball is such a better product. It is so much more exciting. College sports in general, where every game matters, I just don't know why. I mean, I get it. Like the playoffs that are super monetized. Dude, the regular season is so much better when every game matters and it matters for your seeding and it matters how you get placed in the tournament or whether you make the tournament and not the entire freaking league makes the tournament or makes the college football playoffs and all that stuff. Dude, whatever college sports are doing, it just needs to be replicated in pro sports. It's the reason it's so much more exciting. And I have just like been fully blown away by college basketball this year now that I'm like hot, like locked in watching Auburn play every week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you ever got to go to games when you were at Auburn, but like for me personally, like I've been fortunate to get to go to quite a few sporting events in my life. My dad's taken me to quite a few, and it's been great. I'm going with him to one here in the next few days, an Auburn game actually. But yeah, the product itself, like the level of play is absolutely higher in the pros for sure, but the environment at a college game, specifically a college basketball game, can't be beat. Like that,
No.
when you're inside at the game, like watching on TV does not do it justice. And on TV, people are hyped, but man, just that environment, it's electric. All the fans are so into it. All the players are so into it. It means something. And like you said, every game matters. And the NBA is I've always made this joke. It's the everyone gets a trophy league. It's a league where more than half the teams make the playoffs. That's not an exaggeration. That's a fact. There are more teams that make the playoffs in the NBA that don't, and that's I just don't think you should reward mediocrity. There's regularly teams in the NBA with a losing record that make the playoffs, and that shouldn't happen. Whereas in college basketball, college football, every game matters. Even with the fact that it's now 69 teams that make the play in 68 whatever it is. Like even though there's way too many now, it still matters, and that makes it more fun for sure. Mitch, what about you? You've been a little quiet. I know you're not as big a Robert fan as me and Vinny are for obvious reasons, but what you got for us, bud?
I'm more concerned with the well, because Vinny was saying college, the pros need to emulate the college, but isn't there all sorts of like business and legal things going around right now about colleges going wanting to switch to the relegation system? So it's like there's just gonna so like it for college football, there'll be 50 teams in the or I don't know, I think like 30 teams in Division One and then Division Two, Division Three, and you move up and get relegated. So if you're not playing in Division One, you don't have a chance for a national title that year. But teams and colleges are going to move up in like stacks of five or whatever, and they're going to have like 10 divisions for college football, and then they're going to do it for basketball. And based on how well you do, you move up and down the divisions. So that's why my mind was more trailing as opposed to the actual Alabama versus Auburn game, which I only saw the highlights. I apologize. I did not actually watch. I saw like the Sports Center highlights too. So that's even worse.
Shun the non-believer.
I know. So I'm just curious, like, yeah. So I think I remember reading or hearing and all or both that college was actually transitioning to that model a lot sooner than we thought, or like a couple of years away type of thing. But no, I don't. College basketball, I think, is a better product than the pro basketball for a lot of reasons. The talent isn't there, but that's what a lot of times I think makes it better or more enjoyable to watch. So I don't know. I think also there are 64 teams that do make it in college basketball, but I get what you're saying. But
Well,
yeah, no,
it's
it's all good.
68. That's what I'm saying.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 68. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I will say on that, I think that's actually a great take, Mitch. And maybe you're actually proving my point in a different way. Like, what's the most popular sport in the world?
Football. I mean,
Soccer.
well, American soccer. I mean,
Football.
sorry,
Yeah, American soccer,
European football.
football.
That's sorry. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. American
And
soccer is not the way it's described, but yes.
Yeah.
and what would so I guess on that note, what would you argue is the most popular sporting league in the entire world?
That's yeah, EPL.
The NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, but I would argue EPL worldwide is probably more popular. And how many winners are there every year?
Again, guys, let's make sure the fans are clued in. EPL is the English Premier League in soccer.
English Premier League. How
Yeah,
many
one.
winners? How many people? One. And
One.
there's 20 teams. So like, yeah, I know that you've got a little bit of scarcity. It's a smaller nation. Um, but you have one winner. You have teams that get relegated. You have teams that come up. I would argue like 20 is not that big of a difference. I mean, we've expanded like out to 32, but not too long ago we had 30 teams in each with one winner. Like you all have this round robin tournament. You all play each other. and you have one winner. And then meanwhile, in the American sports, we have, 14 teams make the playoffs. In the NFL, 20 teams make the playoffs. In the NBA, they just keep expanding. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And like I have zero desire to watch regular season sports outside of the NFL. Thank God for fantasy football. But regular season and NFL is a little bit tighter because there's less games. But regular season is just a trash product. Baseball, NBA, hockey, it's just bad. There's just nothing at stake. Nobody wants to watch it.
I agree,
Um,
but as an actual like just like kind of like a sports fan and from playing and growing up and kind of thing, it's just kind of like there is something to watching like one team go through the progression rather than watching like Major League Baseball. I only really know Padre players. And to be honest with you, it's kind of turned that way with the NBA as well lately. I don't really know the NBA that well anymore. I know Laker players really well. So it's like it's I think for me it's more of I don't know if it's a habit or just like a comfort or but like I think doing one team and going through the motions with them like each opponent each thing and then just kind of knowing the Padre players and like so I couldn't tell you if there was a lot of baseball trades but I could tell you the Padre trades in the last couple of years. Does that make sense? Like I even forgot what's his name from the Phillies got traded, the Bryce Harper or whatever, when he was balling in the playoffs last year. And I was like, I honestly couldn't, but I could tell you about, you know what I mean? So it's like I think it's more along the lines now, is just like the product for me is just how the experience of one team. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look when you're following one team, that's definitely going to be better when you have so many games in a season. I think that's one of the reasons why the NFL is so popular. It's not that football itself is necessarily more entertaining than say basketball. I mean, it is than baseball in my opinion, but like it's not that it's the entertainment value, which I do think that's part of it, but a lot of it is the fact that every game's matter. People like that games matter, and like even though the NFL's gone to the 17th game now, like which I'm not a fan of, like it's still the games still matter in general. Like every once in a blue moon, a team makes the playoffs with a 500 record. But generally speaking, the best teams make the playoffs. The last few weeks, that anything can happen, and with regards to the wild card seeding and things like that. So I just think that when you have a sport like baseball where they just play so many games, you have to be fully invested in a team to want to follow that throughout the regular season, and then they turn it on in the postseason. So yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think it just really comes down to, like Mitch said, I think if you have a team and you're following your team, then you're much more invested in watching all of the games. And kind of like, I think one of the reasons you're so into college basketball right now, to play devil's advocate, is because your team, the school
Auburn.
you went to,
Yeah.
is number one in the country. So of course you're invested in it because your team's doing well, right? Like one of the reasons I love fantasy football so much is, as you know, Vinny, I'm a Raider fan. Well, the Raiders are terrible at football. They've been terrible at football for the majority of my adult life. My senior year of high school, they played in the Super Bowl. They've been to the playoffs twice since. And in case anyone wants to do the math, I'm 40, so it's been a minute. So yeah, I mean, it's easier for me to enjoy football when I get to play fantasy football because my actual team sucks. So, if you're a big fan of a specific team in a sport and they're not good, or you don't have a team that you're a big fan of, it's harder for you to follow along in that sport. I would not watch as much football as I do if not for fantasy football. Not because I don't enjoy football, I still do, but fantasy football gives me a reason to be invested in it, right? And I will say that the season that I watched the most basketball ever was the year I played fantasy basketball, because I had a reason to care about teams and players, even if they weren't my teams and players.
Are you saying you might miss
yeah.
the Browns Jaguars Thursday night game if there wasn't fantasy football?
If the Browns Jaguars Thursday game that's played in London, so I have to wake up at 6 a.m. to watch it, yeah, I might miss that one, bro. I might miss that one. Not even gonna lie to you.
Yeah. I mean, that's just so bad. It's like watching like what Kansas play Vanderbilt in football. It's like why would you ever? But no, yeah, I guess I get that take. And the one takeaway I have from that, can you indirectly say that that is why Matt and Mitch are so good at fantasy football because they don't have an NFL team?
Well, that's the flip side is that's why I just gave a take about me liking one team in the Lakers. I could tell you everything about all those players that came in, and even in our down years. the problem is that's kind of turned into like somehow me knowing all the offensive lines and all of everybody's team. So it's like I because of fantasy football, I've it's like I could tell you the offensive line of, I promise you most of the teams, and I don't even like half the teams in the NFL. So it's like I think it just went to like the way I follow the Lakers and the way I follow the Padres, and just kind of like fantasy magnified it to every single team, and it takes up a month of my summer every summer.
Yeah, actually, I think Matt is a
Yeah.
good example of what I was talking about. So, and I'm going to throw some shade your way, Matt. So, apologies in advance. But one of the things about Matt is he is a local sports fan. He cheers for his local team, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as a result of that, he has changed teams a few times over the years. And me, and it might just because I'm trapped as a Raider fan and now trapped as a Mavs fan that it sucks to be loyal. But that's just how I am. But growing up, Matt was a Dolphins fan, but then he moved to San Diego and like, look, he lived in San Diego. It's one thing to root for a team as a kid because your dad liked them. Now he's got his own team. He was a San Diego fan. He had season tickets, went to the Charger games, and then when he moved, to LA, he started rooting for the some LA teams, and then he moves up north, and I don't for all I know now he's a Niners fan. I don't know, that's just speculation, but just he's a local sports fan, and that's why I think like I was talking about, if you're following a team, you're much more invested. So I'm sure that as a local San Diego Charger fan, and the Chargers were bad for so long, it was a great reason for Matt to be like, hey, same for me with the Raiders. Let's get into fantasy football because my team's bad. So.
Yeah.
Now, in his defense, the Chargers were not nearly as bad as the Raiders were over that time period, but they still weren't, winning championships. So,
Want to hear my favorite teams that I've rooted for over the years?
sure. I mean, I know one of them's the Niners, but what else you got for
Yeah, I was
us?
gonna say first one was 49ers, then it went Chargers, then it went Jets, then it went Packers and Vikings in the same division, and then it went Ravens and Bills.
But that's because you're rooting for players, not teams, and that's the result of fantasy
That's
football.
100%.
Like you're for the Ravens because of Lamar Jackson. You're
And
not
now,
for,
and now,
you're
and
not
then
for
it's
the
the Jets
Ravens
again.
because you're a big fan of Todd Heap. You know what I mean? Like you were for one season when he was on your fantasy team, but
Whoa, hold up. You for sure were a fan of the Colts for at least a year. Like, there's no way you weren't a Colts fan.
So I definitely, I actually, that's one. Okay, so in between the Packers, Vikings, and in between the Ravens and the Bills years, there's probably 4 years of Colts that I completely forgot about. That's my bad. I should have put Colts in there. No, but definitely. Because it goes Rodgers, Adrian Peterson, Andrew Luck. But I know, okay, anyways, I knew the day that I was going to have to abandon being loyal to a team was it was 2007. I was in college, and I remember waking up going, "Where's the Jets game? Where's the Jets game? Where's the Jets game?" And I remember thinking, the Chargers are literally playing on the same time slot as the Jets, and I'm watching the Jets. I knew in that moment for the rest of my life that I could no longer claim. I was like, I'm just a bandwagoner of the players. And after that moment, I never declared a team. I was way off the Chargers way before they moved and all that. But once LaDainian Tomlinson was in a Jets uniform, I knew that I was like, wow, I don't think I really like the Chargers. The difference is with the Lakers. Kobe was never my favorite player, especially not until around he was 29, 30, that summer when he went to the Olympics and was really like the big brother thing.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between those teams. The Chargers, after LT was a Jet, I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching Mark Sanchez on Sunday in college when I was a diehard Chargers fan for all of high school. So I'll eat it. I'll eat it. I definitely was, but I'm not afraid to. I don't care. I'm not afraid to admit I definitely will go where the players are. I mean, this year I was watching Jets games. Not even gonna lie. I was watching. I
Of course
loved
you
watching
were.
Roger. Yeah. I mean,
You're
it
just
was
hoping
tough.
you're just hoping Aaron Rodgers took his shirt off in the middle of the game.
I was hoping some different outcomes in those games, some different body language from him. But yeah, no, that was I still watch it. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm okay with
actually
people
that's a
switching
good
teams.
take about the Lakers. I actually was a big Shaq, like when it was Shaq and Kobe, I preferred Shaq. I thought Kobe grew into being the leader and the superstar of that team. Um, the one thing I was gonna ask as we were talking about the Lakers, I'm curious since you say you're like I always know who's on him. What was the starting roster for the game that we all went to? Do we? I
Yeah.
wonder if I can look that up really quick.
So
I'm gonna.
He
Let
hit
me
the game-winning
see.
buzzer, and the east side of part of the arena is the closest side of the three-point line towards the side that we were sitting. And it was, well, Chris Mim actually didn't play that game because he had an ankle injury. It was like Ronnie Turioff, um, Smush Parker, um, oh my gosh, I know something. I think actually Luke Walton was in that game. Uh, I'm trying not to Google this. It's all coming back to me. Oh my gosh, if I hold on, am I right about some of those? I know I have to be. And then is it, who am I missing? Caron Butler had to be in there. And I think in that Shaq trade from 2005, Lamar Odom was included. So it's got to be like Odom, Butler, Kobe, Mim, if Mim wasn't on his ankle injury, Turioff, the backup center, I can picture him. Oh my gosh. Vinny, how close am I? Can you help me out here?
I don't know. I'm trying to find it. Apparently, we got blown out in like 2016 by the Mavericks too, so the threw me off my scent for a little bit there.
Oh wait, are you talking about the biggest home loss one or the one where Kobe hit the game winner in the corner?
No, no, the biggest home loss that we all
Oh,
went
I
to is the
apologize. I thought you were talking about the New Year's game one
Mavs
where
versus Lakers.
Were you there for the New Year's game one when Kobe hit the game winner in the corner? We were
No, I
at
don't think
this
so.
seat.
I don't think so.
Okay, my bad. Yes, I forgot. We also went to the game where the Lakers had the biggest home blowout loss, but that was like 2011 or no, wait. That was like 2012 or 13 when Kobe. Wait, was that far back? Actually, I don't remember now. Dang.
I mean, the
I
year
thought it
doesn't
was
matter.
years
Let's
later.
try to keep the podcast moving. What's the point you're trying to make? Don't worry about the year.
No, no, I just like whenever I think of the Lakers, like I haven't been to very many Lakers games in my life, and I just remember going and watching like Kwame Brown and Smush Parker, and Smush Parker gets like ejected in the first like quarter, and like it was like the worst Laker franchise of like all time, and I don't know,
Yeah, those are.
I have like a little bit of like I wish I could detach from sports a little bit more because I'm just like sick of being a fan of just some of like the worst teams ever, you know? Um,
Well, that's why it's enjoyable to be on the Lakers for sure, and that's why I remember I think so well the down years is because there's only fewer number of those down years, and it's like I remember the Kobe had torn Achilles years and all those years, and I can remember all that. So like I definitely remember 2016 to 2019, but other than that, all the other years are like championship years. So yeah, I get it. Basically what I'm trying to say is one reason why I'm not afraid to invest my love in the Lakers is because I know they're not gonna let me down. They're just gonna go get another Doncic, right, Alex?
Yeah, because they grow on trees, man. They'll get one just no problem.
The next one. The Jazz are gonna be like, oh, you Lakers need a trade? Just sign me up. What do you need? That's just gonna be there. I'm never gonna have to worry about them.
All right.
so,
Any other topics you
no,
want to
but
discuss, here, boys?
If you guys don't have
uh,
any, I can propose one, but go Vinny.
yeah, go for it.
Okay, so tier one of the wide receiver rankings that came out, and I'm just gonna name them. This I kind of agree. If this is the tier, so tier one, it goes Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Nico, Nakua. So Collins, sorry, Nico Collins, and then uh, Nakua. That's tier one. Out of tier one, this might change obviously in the next couple months. Next goes Amon St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Drake London, and Marvin Harrison. Do you like those first two tiers as an early preview look CBS?
I don't agree with Marvin Harrison, but
Let me see here. The wide receiver after Marvin Harrison is AJ Brown, Xavier Worthy, then Lad McConkey.
are you? So what are you looking at? You're looking at the projections going into next season.
Yes, they are early look. If you go like advice, it's in one of those tabs or whatever.
Is it is it
And
is it CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Amon Ra are the top three?
no, that's the whole point. Is Amon Ra is left at the top of tier two, out of tier one. Tier one it goes Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Nico, Nakua. That's tier one as of
I
right
clicked on
now.
advice. What did you click on from there? I'm trying to get it on the screen. The early wide receiver projections. This thing.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, yeah.
But this is going to be so. Keep in mind these are going to be for PPR, aren't they? Oh no, they have both. Okay, they have both.
Amon Ra is down on 11 on that one. I don't know what I clicked differently, but yeah, they're leaving. Basically, it's around the same thing, except for I guess AJ Brown and Nico are kind of switched. But that's my point. Is those are the tiers right now. Is what do you? How do you feel about those top 10 wide receivers?
I mean, as someone who had CD Lamb last season, I'm not as stoked on him, but that's probably personal bias. I mean, Chase and Nakua for sure are there. Um, I think Jefferson and Brown both are kind of hit or miss. Um, but I think Nico Collins should be higher as long as he's healthy. Nico's just a beast. So I don't super agree with this list.
Nakua's three on this one. I don't know what I clicked differently. Mine is Nakua at five. So that's crazy. Do you agree that he's a top five fantasy wide receiver?
Puka Nakua,
I don't.
so again, and this is with the caveat if he stays healthy, but he hasn't been able to do that.
So okay, sorry. Okay, with the caveat, I can't do this, but I give you 16 games of health. Let's say he gets hurt in like a third or fourth, but he starts
Okay, so
16 games.
for the sake of this discussion, we're going to assume every player on this list plays
Sure,
16 games,
perfect,
and their
perfect.
quarterback plays 16 games. Is that what we're going to assume?
That's fair with me. That's
Okay,
100% fair with
because
me.
Are
the
we
quarterback,
assuming that they get the same quarterback? Because I mean, there's a lot
Okay,
swirling
well,
around, like Matt
you're right.
Stafford.
Okay, I
yeah.
guess
So that's the thing with
Out.
Puka. Yeah,
yeah.
Does Stafford keep playing? Like,
And for this hypothetical, Stafford is a Ram for six, like starting the season. I'm not, I can't guarantee Stafford's health or anything, but let's just pretend Puka plays 16 games no matter what, and he's got Stafford there. Because I can't guarantee all the QB's health and all the wide receivers' health. I guess let's just do it for the sake of argument. Sorry. Yeah, make it simpler. All the QB's, Stafford's
Yeah.
there for 16 games next year.
Then yeah, I mean, three is bold, but it's
Three is,
not
and
wrong.
and he's at five on the thing I clicked or whatever. So it's like, that's where you're going to be taking him, Vinny. End of round one to get number three wide receiver. The third wide receiver usually goes around 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 overall ADP. It's Puka Nakua, 12, 13, I mean, that's what I'm getting at. And then look at Nico. I mean, not Nico, sorry. Nico's way higher up on the other list, but Amon, he's out of tier one on my thing, and he's all the way down to 11 on that one. Like, whew, I mean, I know
Wow.
it's got a lot of time, but it's just fun to think about right now. Like, that's not my wide receiver rankings right there. You know what I mean? That's all I'm trying to say. I was wondering how you
I mean,
guys
yeah,
felt
because
about
your ranking
anything
says
stand
DJ
out.
Moore at number one, right? Because this is your favorite player last
Mine
season.
has DJ Moore not even on the board, Alex. I have taken and Roma Dunze is on like early sleepers as well. I'm like, I'm not even gonna like. I honestly,
Hold on.
well, I know, yeah,
Let's
I know we've said this on the last podcast or whatever and everything like that. But like, yeah, I do fantasy pros as well
Yeah,
too.
that's why
So
I'm going to Fantasy Pros. All right, this is a standard league for Fantasy Pros. They still
see,
have Puka.
Amon's out of tier two. He's in tier two, out of tier one, number five. Like that's wild to me.
I mean, I can't help but notice that your boy DJ is not up here in the top 12. Where did he
Oh,
go? Oh, down
I
here at
wouldn't.
27.
That's more appropriately
Yeah.
ranked. That's more appropriately ranked. Maybe the other one was off of PPR as well, but who knows? Okay,
I
just
hope
go
I'm
off
not
this one.
giving
I
anything
like this.
away, but like I mean, I knew you guys would know about Fantasy Pros, but like I hope that like Break's not like, oh, Fantasy Pros. There's more than one website to look at
Oh, you can
rankings.
ask Vinny. I've used Fantasy Pro probably for closer
No,
to a
like I said,
decade
I don't
now.
mind showing you. I'm not that
Yeah.
Break's gonna watch this. Not that anyone's going to watch. But like, I would hate to think that we're giving away secrets here.
And when DraftKings and what's not draft, the other one, Fantasy Duel or whatever, when that came around, they lost half of their analysts. Now it's just like Fantasy Pros is just like the combination of like six or seven. It used to be like every analyst across every network. Then like ESPN, CBS, all of them stopped allowing it to be compared or whatever. So, anyways, it used to be amazing. But yeah, okay, I'll post this and I'll stop talking because I guess Vinny's only got like 5 minutes. Is there anything that you're seeing right now on that list? Because remember, you translate to where it's going like ADP. In order to get the fourth wide receiver, Puka Nakua, that's going to be 12, 13, 14. Anything on this list stand out to you guys? Like Neighbors at nine, is London at 11? Like anything. Brian Thomas at seven is going to be very rich for a lot of people's blood. Go on, take the
I was
floor.
just gonna say I'm probably more apt to boo Canada at the next sporting event than take Brian Thomas as like the seventh overall wide receiver.
That's the yeah. I mean, Vinny took him in round 14 or something like that. Could you imagine him taking him with his early round two pick or mid round two pick? It's
I
not
mean,
happening.
he performed excellently. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think he's very good. I just see there's just like such a oh man, I don't know. Like I think wide receivers are still great, but they just carry so much risk. I mean, don't be surprised when I go running back next year. Looking at this right now. I mean,
No
just,
one's
God,
gonna,
just think like you're sitting there at the end of round one, early round two. Like, are you taking Brian Thomas? Are you taking Drake London in the second? Terry McLaurin in the third? Like, I don't care how good their production is. Like, taking those dudes in the second, third round is going to be really, really hard to do.
oh,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, this is just me personally. Like, and again, a lot can change between now and then. So I'm not saying I'm going to do this. I'd be a lot more comfortable taking Terry McLaurin than I would Drake London. Even though coming into the season, I would have been much more comfortable the other way around. I think that Drake London is the better player right now in his career. He's slightly younger than McLaurin. The problem is that we know who McLaurin's quarterback is. We've seen what he can do. I do think the league is going to catch up with him a little bit because that always happens to rookies. But we've seen what he can do, whereas we haven't really seen what Drake London's quarterback can do because his quarterback only got a couple of games. So I think that's a lot more shaky situation if you go with London. So if I were picking between those two guys, I would go Terry McLaurin, even though I think Drake London has the higher ceiling.
We all know you're going Evans in that turn though. If
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
mean, look,
sure.
if this guy's still breathing,
1000%.
dude, he could be on oxygen in a walker, and he's mine.
The the thing is too is like if you look at the number one is Chase and number 10 is Higgins. So it's like is either Burrow is going to be the number one fantasy quarterback next year or Higgins is not going to be 10 overall. I promise you one of those two things will be true. You know, did I say that wrong? Like either if Higgins is 10 and Chase is one, like Burrow is going to be better than he was this previous year. Like, I would love to know if someone's ever put a wide receiver one and another one in the top 10. That would be fascinating to look up. I should look that up for next time. Like, I don't think it's like a thing. That's not realistic. Higgins has to drop or Chase has to drop in the rankings before draft time. No one's going to sit here and be like, yeah, Higgins at 10 and Chase at one. And then everyone should just take Burrow in the second round then. Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah. No, I think this is an interesting early take for sure. I was thinking like how can we introduce like early takes in fantasy, but I'm looking at tier three and man, I might just
Devontae
draft
Adams
Scott
without
Rizlov.
Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson put at 17 and 18 without Aaron Rodgers as
Yeah,
a
can I see
starter.
what does tier four look like? Let's see. Like
That's just the
these are
fun.
fantasy football starters. Like what is can you scroll down just a little bit, Alec?
Yeah, let me accept the cookie
Oh
then.
my God. Oh my God. I'm never playing fantasy ever again.
Look at
I
they don't
can't.
know where to
I
I
put Nick
can't do it.
I
They don't
will.
know
I
where to
can't
put
do
Nick
it.
Chuba, and they put don't
So
know where to
I mean,
put
if I'm
Metcalf. They
picking
don't know where
right
to put.
now, if I'm picking right
Yeah,
now, like this is an absolute sleeper, right? Like
yeah, that's
this
sleeping.
guy was a monster the second half of the season 2 years ago. Last year he didn't play because he was hurt. So like obviously, look if the reports in training camp are he still can't move his knee. Like okay, that's different. But if we get reports that he's playing like himself, I mean, we saw what the Chiefs look like without a wide receiver one. They were a different football team. Like yes, they won a bunch of games, but you can't go back and watch this season and think the Chiefs were a great team. Like yeah, they won a lot of games, and like I'm not trying to discredit them, but like they played a bunch of stinkers and they didn't look great. Their offense looked anemic, and their offense, especially in the Super Bowl, looked anemic. And I think a guy who made a huge difference for them last year or 2 years ago, whatever you want to call it, was Rasheed Rice. And so if he is
Yeah.
falling to wide receiver 20, like I'm absolutely taking Rasheed Rice over a lot of these guys. Like for example, Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. Like, well, we don't know who their quarterback is. We do
Yeah,
not know who
that's
their
what they're
Well,
quarterback
doing.
is.
I think Rasheed Rice is sitting there in tier four because he put four people in the hospital and then fled from the scene. So
Right, right. And again, this is the
I,
caveat we gave at the
I think
beginning was
it's
that they're
just,
healthy and
I
going
think
to
it's just
play.
baked in. I think
Yes,
it's just baked
if
in.
he is in a federal penitentiary, I'm no longer taking Rasheed Rice on the turn.
Scroll down one more, Alex.
Yeah,
Nope.
then yeah,
It's
Mitch is
number.
going to be down between DJ Moore and Rasheed Rice, with Rasheed possibly going to jail, and he's just going to take DJ Moore again.
Look at number
But
30 and tell me if he has a certain quarterback he's not bumping up to tier two.
but hey, I'm gonna make Alex the host. I gotta log off, boys. It was another great week. Love you guys. Love the fans. I'll be chatting with you.
See you, Vinny.
Later, bud.
Alex, we can wrap this up. No big deal. Get it out
Oh,
tonight.
I don't have a hard out. Vinny had a hard out because he had to go to Costco with the wife. He had a wife aggro. Which, if you're listening, Dakota, think you're awesome. You should come sometime because I'm sure you have better opinions than Vinny. Moving right along, but yeah, so I don't have a hard out here, Mitch. I'm good to. Well, I mean, I do, but it's not for another hour. So, like, I'm good to chat for a bit if you want. But if you don't have any topics, we can call it there.
No, I mean,
We're kind of on
yeah, no,
fantasy.
I don't really have any topics. I was just looking at the early rankings. Like you can like
Yeah,
click the
let's go into
QB
some more
button.
early ranking.
Yeah.
Let's check out the early ranking of running backs. I think this is going to be interesting because I think no one's going to argue with the top three, right? Like these three are probably the guys everyone's targeting. Am I right in assuming that?
Yeah, I just don't know how Henry's out of that tier, but sure, go on.
So
And I might even
my only
throw
question mark
Jacobs
here
in
would
that
be
tier.
Gibbs. Like, I mean, Gibbs lost his offensive coordinator, and that is a thing. Like, say what you want. Like, there are a lot of sports where the coach isn't a huge deal. I think in football, offensive coordinators are a huge deal. Well,
Sure.
play callers. Let me rephrase. Play callers are a huge deal, and he lost his play caller.
The only thing I would argue is when you have so many returning players, you can just run basically a lot of the same offense. Like I know it's not going to be that effective if you go up against your former offense coordinator and the Bears or whatever, and that might be a problem, especially in the division. But what I'm saying is, with the returning personnel of that line, those running backs, the quarterback, the wide receivers, you really don't have to change a whole lot. You just got to get the verbiage changed for the most part. So I'm not too worried about Gibbs, to be honest with you. The only thing I'd be more worried about is Montgomery. Like everyone said Gibbs last year. There's the same narrative. Oh, Gibbs is taking that step up or whatever, but that's what everyone was assuming he was going to take it. So I'm not sure it's safe to assume that he's even going to take that step and they don't just split again. But I'm not necessarily worried about them losing Ben Johnson for this 1 year in the future necessarily. That's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying is that they copy the same thing as he's split. So Gibbs definitely right. I agree with you. So take the more I think about it, take Gibbs out of there, and I would put Henry and Jacobs up there. Switch Henry and Jacobs with Gibbs, and then there we go. I'm good with that. I don't know about Bucky Irvin, but I'm good with those two tiers.
So what's your concern with Bucky Irving then?
I'm not sure if he can if they're going to. I mean, sorry, if one they're going to give him the full time, and two, when they're both healthy. What's the other guy's name? Oh my gosh, it's killing me right now. But when they might just run a bunch of different running backs back there. That's what I'm nervous about. I know the Tampa Bay just also lost their offensive coordinator, so I don't know. Don't know what to expect. I'll have to wait more on that one. I guess Bucky Irvin up there is would get. I'm gonna have to think about that one this offseason. That's interesting. Devon Achane, I like. Jonathan Taylor, I like. Kyron Williams, I like.
Yeah, worth
Like,
noting that not that he played a huge role last season, but they did go ahead and cut. Rish, I forgot his name. How did I forget his name? Who's the other running back? Uh, oh my God, what? The Dolphins had the two-headed monster a couple years ago, Mitch.
oh yeah,
He led the league in
not Jeff
touchdowns.
Wilson, not Jeff Wilson, but
No.
oh my God,
He led the league in touchdowns. I feel awful. I can't remember his name. I'm drawing a blank, but anyway.
Mostert.
Thank you, Raheem Mostert. So the Dolphins did part ways with Raheem Mostert. Now, again, Mostert was not a big factor this season, but it is worth noting the Dolphins are kind of planting a flag that Achane is their guy. When
Yeah,
you
no,
make
for
that
sure.
change.
So maybe raise A chain up. Look at the next tier though. This is what I'm saying. Is like you look at these tiers and look at there's some real league winners in this next tier, and it's like I don't understand how. I mean, maybe I do understand, but for me, I can't see how the next eight out of the 18 first picks, it's going to be 14 running backs next year in our draft. That's my prediction. It's just because like everyone's more comfortable with taking these guys and like Chuba Hubbard and Chase Brown, let alone Brees Hall and Joe Mixon. There's going to be a lot more people comfortable taking those guys with their mid to late second round pick than it's going to be with some of those wide receivers we just named. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
I think one of the interesting ones here. You talk about league winners, like I think there's some safer picks like Williams, Cook, maybe even Brees Hall, Mixon, Brown, whatever. But then there's the like guys like Chuba Hubbard and Ashton Genty. We don't even know where he's playing yet. The reason he's listed as free agent, he's going to be a rookie. He was in college last year. And then
Yeah,
Chuba
yeah.
Hubbard, like he was a league winner for a lot of people.
That's what I'm saying.
I
Chuba,
won a
I'd be
fantasy
happy
football
with
championship with
too.
him, but the
Yeah.
rookie running back is going to be healthy finally, right? Like at some point,
Uh, yeah, I
not
mean,
not
they
at the
did
start of the
pay
season, but
Chuba
at some
though.
point.
Almost
So like,
all running backs that got paid this offseason got used in some capacity. I think they just paid Chuba. I think they plan on using him for at least another year.
yeah,
So I'm just yeah I think my whole point is I'm not sure specifically on the individual rankings of these guys. I'm just saying when you're looking at these guys compared to those wide receivers that are left, it's like everyone's gonna just be like yeah, Joe Mixon, Chase Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Chuba. They're all gonna go way ahead of the other weird receivers. Like no one's taking Brian Thomas over any of those running backs, right? Maybe someone is. I don't know. I'm not trying to offend anyone. Like, I don't know. So that's just kind of where it is. And then click the QB one real quick. Again,
all
this will
right.
just come down to people's preference and where they pick. But do you see any discrepancies early on with
The
that? You
the
think
big one that
Patrick's
stands
too
out to
high?
me is Jaden Daniels. So, and I talked about this earlier, is people catch up to you after your rookie year. A lot of times, a rookie quarter, like, so there's different positions have different ways they play depending on what year they're in. Like, some people have a sophomore slump, some people suck as a rookie, then get better. Like, there's different learning curves for different positions.
Right.
In general, in my opinion, I think quarterbacks that come in and are good right away because they're dual threat QBs, the league catches up to them a little bit by their second year. Now, I don't know that Jaden's going to fall off as much as some other guys have in the past because I think he's a better passer than a lot of the other running quarterbacks. But it is worth noting that, like, Jalen Hurts, fantasy wise, his rookie year was much better than his second year. And now he's back to being, a great fantasy option, which is why you see him fourth here. But he did have that downslide after his rookie year.
Oh, you couldn't. This, I mean, I'm sure we'll bring it up, but it's 100% right. The thing is, like, you can just fill in the blank with any QB. They've all had bad, usually sophomore years in comparison because they get caught up for all the reasons you said. That's great. Um, I'm saying, is there any like, so for me, like, if you look at the bottom list, like CJ Stroud, look what I was comparing to where they were drafted the year before when I was looking at these for a little bit, and it was like. CJ Stroud was being drafted, I think fourth or fifth overall quarterback being taken off the board. Now he's going down to 16 behind guys like Caleb Williams and Anthony Richardson. Did I miss something last year, or is he correctly? And then for someone, Dak Prescott at 18, who led the league in touchdowns a couple years ago, or 2 years ago, led the league in touchdowns and was like the number one fantasy QB. Like I was going to draft Dak this year or Jaden. Those were my two targets. Like, am I in delusional land? Why are they at 16 and 18? That's like if someone's drafting Josh Allen in the first round, theoretically, or on the turn in the second, like where he normally goes in there, like where is CJ Stroud and Dak going if they're all the way down there? That's crazy. 16 and 18 is
I mean, I
just
look as someone who had Dak this
insulting.
season. He like obviously only played half the season, so like I'm taking my bias out, being mad that he got hurt. But like even if you just look at the games he played, he did not play that well. You and I talked about this. Like
Sure.
he did
No
not
Kellen
play.
Moore.
Dak has made his money from a fantasy standpoint being a great garbage time quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He never has been, but he's great in garbage time because they just have to chuck the ball because they're always behind. Well, him chucking the ball didn't work out nearly as well this season as it had in past seasons. And not this look one year, especially in this case, 8 games is not indicative of the rest of someone's career. But it is worth noting Dak is down here because like, hey, he did not look nearly as good this year as the year prior. Tua is down here because he took a big regression, and at any point, an injury could end this man's career. So that's why these guys are down here. CJ Stroud, this is what I was talking about with Jaden Daniels being ranked so highly. CJ Stroud was a world beater his rookie year.
That's what I was saying.
And then
Yeah.
this year he
Yeah,
had a
so he was
massive
fifth.
slump. That's why I
He
think
was fourth
Jaden
or
Daniels
fifth.
I
Yeah.
think Jaden Daniels is overrated right now. And I think people who draft Jaden Daniels next year are going to be disappointed. Not because Jaden Daniels isn't good. Not because Jaden Daniels isn't going to be good long term.
It's
That's
the
all I'm
cost
saying.
value.
But I
Yeah.
think his sophomore year fantasy value, he is going to be an
Cost,
overrated
yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. So, but like, let me ask you right now: would you rather have right now? We're in the. Would you rather have Dak as your fantasy QB or Justin Herbert?
Uh, I would probably still take Dak in that scenario just because Herbert
Agreed.
has been so medium for
Dak or
years.
Jordan Love?
Uh, during Toyotathon or not,
A whole year.
I would probably roll the dice on Jordan Love at this point.
Interesting. Dak or Jared Goff?
I would take Goff.
Uh, Dak.
Even though he's losing his
I,
coordinator, he's got so many weapons.
Dak or Kyler Murray?
I really dislike Kyler, so I'll take Dak, but I'm probably biased.
I'm agreeing with everything you said, but I would still take Dak over Goff. So I'm 100% everything you said, but I would do Dak. The only thing where it gets to me is where you get up there with, obviously, I'm taking Baker over Dak. I'm taking Burrow, Hurts, Daniels, Jackson, Allen. I agree with you. Daniels is going to be way too costly for where it's going to be. That's why I was trying to say CJ Stroud was being drafted fourth or fifth QB taken off the board, and now he's ranked. So, like, are we going to be looking at this fast forward a year from now? Jaden Daniels is going to be ranked in tier four. Like, you know what I mean? I agree with everything you said. The only thing is, like, Dak or Mahomes? Who would you rather have?
Uh, I mean, in that scenario, I think I would take Mahomes. I think he's gonna have something to prove after this past season. He's gonna be upset about it, uh, and also, but that is with the caveat that Rasheed Rice plays and Kelsey doesn't retire.
Okay,
Obviously,
well
my
then
vote
we
changes.
literally have the exact same thing except for golf. We have the
So you
100%
so
exact
oh, okay. So let's talk about that then. What is your question marks around Jared Goff?
Um, they, they're so circumstantial that team is so stacked. Like, are they going to run up the score so much on every single team? Are they ever going to let off on the break? They were up so big on so many teams. Like, are they ever just going to run the ball? Or are they just going to force feed St. Brown this scripted plays to make sure he gets a touchdown in the fourth quarter when you're up 35 points and you're playing Matt? You know what I mean? Like that kind of because Matt had St. Brown, it was a bad joke. But like as I'm saying, it's like I don't know if their statistics like the Ravens made sense. Their yardage matches, their points match, their yards per completion, all their offensive stats match up. Like the Lions have a lot of outlier statistics. That's like they put up so many points, but for how much yardage they actually had does not actually translate. There's a lot of things that are like some red flags that just could be product of they were just overall such a good team. It didn't matter. So like maybe they're getting everyone back healthy and they can replicate that. But like, is there going to be any time where they just don't blow teams out in the second half, or like they don't have this quest to go out and beat everyone and drop 50 points every Sunday? Like if they are going to do that, then golf is going to have TD and red zone opportunities. But if they don't score like they did last year, those red zone opportunities for Goff and the stats that he puts up they're not going to be able to equal some of the other fantasy QBs, including Dak, in my opinion.
So
Dak led the league in touchdowns in 2 years ago. I have faith in him.
so my next question then, I'm glad you brought up a touchdown leader. What are your thoughts then? What are you personally on Baker Mayfield? Because I know you're not a Laser Mayfield guy.
Oh no, I've said in the podcast I've came around
Oh, you
to
come
it.
around?
He's
Okay.
definitely yeah, he's definitely. I mean, it took me a while, but I mean, it took me even a little bit in Carolina or whatever. I was like, that's not too bad. And then when he took over that stacked Super Bowl team that Brady left him or whatever, I was like, wow, he's gonna mess this up, and he did. No, I've come around on Baker. I honestly would put Baker probably. Well, I'd take Jaden down and I'd switch Jaden and Burrow, and then I'd probably put Baker above Jaden. I'd probably have Baker at 5 or 6. So no, I'm okay with Baker. I'm gonna admit I didn't really come around on Cousins. I still don't really think I know if I like him or not. Baker, I've done a 180 on for sure. No, Baker's proven it, and he does it in a sense to where like the other teams have to game plan against him. Like even when you watch up, like I'm not a big football guy. I didn't play, very far into it, so like when you're watching all these expert analyst shows and everything, like Baker's really actually dictating instead of just reacting. So no, I've come around on Baker.
Okay.
And even if he loses, Godwin and Evans, let's say he doesn't have both, I think with an off season of him working with the receivers, I don't think he drops much farther than where he is right now.
I mean
I would probably have him at 5. Yeah.
the fact that he lost he lost both his receivers in the same game in the middle of the season and still played as well as he did, I think is a pretty big testament to how good he is now.
Yeah, definitely. He also survived. What's his name? Canales leaving or whatever. No, that was Seattle. I forget. He's. I know I can't remember right now. I'm struggling, but I've had mental checklists for him over the last couple of years, and he's passed each one. So I'm not bashing on Baker, and I actually think he's a B plus A minus quarterback. And if you rewind all the way back, Austin took Baker rookie year when Baker had that light up year. I ended up having to go Baker in the second round because Austin picked ahead of me on the turn back in the third. So you know what I'm trying to say? I couldn't get him in the third. I know Austin would have taken him with his third. Does that make sense? So like I took Baker in the second round that year or whatever, and he was terrible. So like I was with Baker, then I was fully against Baker, and now I'm back with Baker. So yeah, to be honest, if he was sum it up, if he was my quarterback fantasy next year, I wouldn't be upset at all. Honestly, I'm trying to go for that number one guy right there, but I don't know if you guys are going to let me have him again this year. I don't know how that's going to happen. I think he's just him and Lamar, and I think a lot of people like again. All right, I'll sum it up with this: these quarterbacks of this list does not matter. It's going to come down to the great fantasy owners and the great fantasy managers that we have in our league, because everyone's very good at doing this. They're going to have their own personal preference. They're not going to care when their ADP is. They're just going to go get their quarterback. So it's just going to be like, when does Chris like whoever? When does Austin like whoever? When does Alex like, Alex might wait, obviously. You might wait. That's your strategy. When does Vinny, when does Matt? When do myself? I think it's all going to come down to, yeah, exactly. That's who we're all going to want for sure, Alex. 100%.
Yeah, it depends on where you draft and who's there, right? Like if I'm
Yep.
if I'm picking on
Matt
the
or
like
not.
the one time I did go Lamar Jackson, I think I picked 10th, right? So like if
I felt
I'm
so bad because like I wanted Lamar to do so well for you that year because it's like, yes, Alex
no,
finally went
it was miserable. But the point that I'm making is like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
depends on where you are and who's available, right? Because like
Sure.
I've said, I'm not as high on Jaden Daniels this year, right? So like if people take guys like Jaden Daniels and Patrick Mahomes that I'm not as high on, and it gets to me, and there's still a guy like Goff or Mayfield, on like the turn, I'm much more likely to pull that trigger than I am if those guys are gone and I'm sitting there looking at Jaden Daniels and Patrick Mahomes just because I'm not
And
as
they're not
high on
even
them.
gonna
You know what
Yeah,
I'm
they're
saying?
not even gonna cost you a high pick because they theoretically might be the sixth or seventh QB off the board, and usually that's right around the mark in the third round. It's usually around six or seven QBs gone.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's
like it
like,
just depends on who's there when, right? Like so,
right.
because my strategy going into the draft, this past season, for example, going in, I wanted to take CD Lamb first, assuming the big three running backs were gone, and they were right with my first pick. Well,
Right.
you know, had CD not been there and I'd gone running
It's
back, I
Henry
wouldn't have
and
targeted
Barkley.
Dak Prescott. But as soon as I got CD, I'm like, all right, I'm going to target Dak because I knew that Dak would be. I could get
Interesting.
to him later in the draft, and I wanted the stack, right? So like, I didn't go into the draft saying I want to target Dak, but because of how my first round went, that changed my strategy. Not changed my strategy,
Yeah,
but
so
like gave me a direction. So yeah,
3 years ago, Alex, I went Josh Allen in the first round, then I went Diggs in the second round, and I thought I was going to but Diggs had such a bad year, it killed. Allen did good, he was fine, he was number one fantasy QB, but was so bad. So ever since then, I've been like, I can't do that. So you taking Dak and Lamb is very interesting to me. That they probably are the two that are actually worth the fantasy value because of how much they rely on each other. So, yeah, no, no, that's interesting. That's interesting. Taking the QB and the wide receiver on the same team and targeting the QB because you got the wide receiver is very interesting to me. No, Purdy was way higher last year. I think he's appropriately ranked if that's who you're highlighting for me to look at right now. But um, yeah, I don't know. Like, good luck calling anyone in that tier. I don't, what, Bo Nix is your best quarterback in there? I don't know. That's crazy. So, but that could be it. We don't have to do tight ends. We can call
yeah.
it.
We'll
And
we'll, we'll wrap it up there. We'll do tight ends next time with Vinny. Thanks everyone so
yeah,
much for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time. Any final thoughts there, Mitch?
no, it's fun as always. Till next week. See you guys.
All right, see ya.